The oldest sparring partners of Europe are at it again, France and Britain. They have fought over colonies. They have fought over the seas. Today they're fighting over fish. I know it sounds trivial, but it's not. There is big money in fishing, and right now the stakes could not be higher. So how did Europe's iron brothers come to a standoff? And where do things go from here? Let's take the first question. Why are Britain and France sparring at all? Because of the most shoddy bit of deal-making in modern history. That's Brexit. Last week, Britain and the EU ratified a post-Brexit agreement. It talks about a new fishing regime in the English Channel. This is the waterway that separates Britain from France, the English Channel. Before Brexit, fishing rights were not an issue because all EU states shared one common fishing area. But the whole point of Brexit was to change this system. So Britain took control of its waters. The new agreement allows French fishermen to keep using the channel, but there's a condition. They cannot be first-timers. The fishermen must have a history of fishing in British waters. Now, the French say their rights are still being restricted, not in mainland Britain, but in a crown dependency to the south, the island of Jersey. Let me pull up the map for you again. Look at how close Jersey is to France, just 22 kilometers. Now look at the distance from mainland Britain, almost 140 kilometers. A little over 100,000 people live here and they have their own parliament under the Queen of England. So what role does the UK government play? UK is responsible for Jersey's defence. And we'll tell you why that's important in a bit. But before that, here's something else that you should know. Last Friday, Jersey granted 41 fishing permits. But the fishermen say the permits violated the Brexit agreement. They say additional requirements, additional clauses were added at the last minute. So what did they do? They gathered their boats and swarmed Jersey. By Thursday morning, 25 French trawlers had arrived. They were threatening to block Jersey's St. Helier port. These pictures give you an idea of what it looks like. Not exactly sunny sailing conditions. The waters look choppy and there are some pretty dark clouds in the back. But this is a question of livelihood, so the fishermen were resolved to carry on.
We are not happy with the licensing restrictions they handed out to us. We should have had licenses to fish as we wished without any restrictions on the species. But they impose a restriction on days. Some boats will only be able to fish one type of fish when they used to fish 3 or 4.
But they were not alone in these waters. Britain has deployed 2 Royal Navy ships to Jersey, HMS Seven and HMS Tamer. They're both armed with 2 large guns and a short-range anti-aircraft weapon. What exactly is their mission? Right now, nothing. Downing Street says the ships are there to observe. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has pledged his unwavering support to Jersey. He says any blockade would be unjustified. But then so are naval deployments, and that too over fish. These are men with fishing nets and harpoons, hardly a mission for the Royal Navy. And what about the French? How have they reacted, or should we say overreacted? Because if you thought Britain's naval deployments were pushing it, listen in to what the French are threatening to do.
As you know, the agreement provides for retaliatory measure, and we are ready to use these measures of retaliation. Europe, France has means. They are inscribed in the agreement. Insofar as Jersey is concerned, I'll remind you of electricity transportation via undersea cable. So we have the means, and even if I regret that we could get to this point, we will get there if we must.
That was the French maritime minister. She is talking about cutting off electricity to Jersey. You see, most of the island's power comes from France, almost 95% of it. It is delivered through 3 underwater cables, and France is threatening to turn off this tap. They've also deployed a naval patrol of their own. Now, if this were the Red Sea or the Gulf, we would be having a very different discussion. But this is the English Channel. The chances of France and England having a skirmish are practically nil. But it does reveal the lack of political maturity in Europe. Today was election day in Britain, local body elections, and some critics say that Prime Minister Boris Johnson wanted to flex his muscles ahead of voting. In France, Macron is up for re-election next year. He wants the fishermen on his side. But above all, this standoff is a direct outcome of shoddy deal-making. The UK just wanted Brexit to be over, and the result was this. A lot of contentious issues were ignored. You see, striking a deal and implementing it are two very different things. And this is just the start of Britain's worries. Because to the north, an even bigger standoff awaits. Northern Ireland. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.